According to the ACEs study, it takes a trusted adult in the life of a child to help them overcome challenges. As our students come back to school this year, they're going to have some challenges they're going to rely on us to help them overcome. So I'm going to talk about today meeting students' social and emotional needs after the pandemic and beyond. We'll look at three different areas, the current standards and practices that we have at Esterbridge High School, whether those standards are meeting the needs of our students, and then I'm going to propose a restorative plan to help meet the social and emotional needs of our students that's not being met. As far as the current standards, we do a pretty good job as far as our school spirit. Most of our teachers are very, very spirited. They love being visited with Vista Ridge Wolves. Very caring staff. In fact, many of our staff members, to include myself, have students who attend the school as well. I have a junior and also a senior this year that's at the school. Last year, in the midst of all the pandemic challenges we hired another position. It's called a social emotional support counselor. This counselor, very, very experienced, has a heart for what she does. In fact, the counselor takes and have weekly grief and recovery classes that are offered to the kids after school once a week. Another thing we do in our school is what we call pathways. We realize that not every kid is going to go to college, but every kid is going to leave the school. And the question is, where do they go? Do they go to college? Do they go to trade school, or do they just take a gap year and work? So Pathways was a required class. It's required for all 4 years of high school. It's talked about post-secondary readiness. That's what it's about. Unfortunately, most of the pathways has been geared towards college-bound students and not towards trades. Another challenge with the pathways right now is that the social emotional learning is incorporated during the 9th and 10th year of high school, but not during 11th and 12th, which to me, I think that's the time they will need more social emotional learning as they prepare to leave high school and go into the world after high school. So the question is, are the standards meeting the needs of our students or meeting the needs at all? I have to say no, and there's a few reasons why I say that. And one of the reasons because of our low graduation requirements. We only need 24.5 credit hours to graduate from high school, our kids. What is a school up the road that needs like 40 hours to graduate? Those students up the road, most of the students are college bound, whereas our students, because of the low graduation requirement, they're not going to be equipped to go to college. Another challenge we have right now is the demonstration of mastery. It's very unclear how that works. The intent was to try to help kids graduate from high school by demonstrating mastery in some other way. Much like I think about the movie where the young man Blindside, and we can actually talk about what he's doing as opposed to showing it on writing or reading. But how do you demonstrate mastery? For instance, right now, a person can actually go through school, fail a class, and take the final and get a D or better, and then they pass the class. However, that doesn't constitute demonstration of mastery. So I believe that the bar may be a little too low to demonstrate mastery how we have it right now. Also, another reason why we're not meeting the needs is because the social emotional learning is not really incorporated in all subjects. The mindset, I believe, that some gen ed teachers think that that's up for the psychiatrists or for the counselor to handle, but not for them. But I think it needs to be incorporated in teaching to learn how to incorporate it in their already content area. Another area we have right now that's not meeting the needs is what they call capturing kids' hearts. It's a program which is very successful with younger kids, where the kids can go and they talk to kids, ask them questions like, "What are you doing? What should you be doing? Are you doing it right now?" And I know if I do that in the hallway with a high school kid, I'm going to get some pushback. It won't be present. It won't be pleasing. But what we have here, instead of using capturing kids' hearts, we sort of practice to be more of appropriate for the age group. When I ask a kid, what happened or what needs to happen to make this right, they can deal with that better than me asking them, "What are you doing?" Because if I say what you're doing, they come back with none of your business. Another area that we're meeting is our staff members themselves as far as their social emotional well-being. Last year we had a Zoom meeting where we had a breakout section. Myself and 4 other folks broke out, and we talked about where we were socially emotionally. And Out of that group, 3 of the people kind of broke down and started sharing how much of a challenge is for them to try to balance their work as a parent and as a teacher. One of the things also that's also a challenge for us is our staff relationships. We talk about building relationships, but like our school and many schools, we tend to be on the outside of the building and stay on the outside of the building. We don't go out and see other people. It's one of my challenges this year. A mandate I put on myself is to go out and step out of my comfort zone and actually meet new people. Last year, we had a few teachers who left. They left when I spoke to a couple of these young teachers, and they left because they felt they weren't being appreciated by the leadership of the building. Hopefully this year that will change. We have a new principal that came on board this year. He seems to be a lot more in tune with the needs of the teachers as well, the staff members, in addition to the students. So the question is, what can we do as far as restorative implementation of standards and practices? My proposal is that we incorporate these together. Now, I look at SEL, or social emotional learning, as a process through which children enhance their ability to integrate thinking, feeling, and behaving and achieving important life tasks. Now, you read that definition, that doesn't sound like it's something just for the counselors or something that's just for the psychiatrists. Now, restorative practice seeks to develop good relationships and restore a sense of community in an increasingly disconnected world. So when we put these both together, then that would be a lot more effective than trying to do one separately. My proposal is also that we have monthly training that we do a few minutes every time we have professional learning. We talk about things like restorative practice and social emotional training. My proposal is start off with circles, start off small, just a little bit at a time. The circles will allow us to kind of sit down and have just kind of a simple question like, what was the best part of your day? Or what was your favorite food? Something to get the process started. And I believe that once the teachers started using the circles, they realized they'll learn more about students than they ever did before. Also, topics like equality and equity and how to talk about effective statements, how to use those certain statements, and also collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning competencies as well. This next slide shows what I'm talking about. This wheel shows the social emotional competencies, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and also responsible decision-making. This here gives a better idea. And I think what happens is a lot of people don't understand what this is all about. So if you look at this slide here, it shows that self-awareness is the ability to recognize one's own emotions. Self-management is the ability to regulate one's emotions and thoughts. So you recognize it as one thing, but to regulate is another thing. Then social awareness is the ability to take the perspective of and empathy on others. Relationship management is the ability to establish and maintain healthy and rewarding relationships. And then finally, responsible decision making is the ability to make constructive choices about personal behavior and social interaction. This also will be worth teaching it as well as the social discipline window. And it includes how we have certain control and certain support. So you can see this axis here, it shows the control, and here it shows support. And what we try to do is we're going to get in that with box, not the 2 box, the not box, or the 4 box. The 2 box is kind of what I tend to lean to because I'm a retired master sergeant and I want to do things to you, like knock off some push-ups. That's not always effective. So that doesn't work very well. It brings about resentment and doesn't work. It's a punitive measure. Here, the not box is when you don't do anything. It's like the sin of omission. You kind of sit back and feel like nothing's going on when it's going on. Over here, the permissive or the 4 box is where you have the bleeding heart liberals, if you will. They'll go and they'll try to do everything for a kid. Kid will tell them that I didn't have my homework done because I had a family emergency. And after a while, that family emergency works. And when you tell that to a teacher and the teacher exempts all your work, you keep on saying that. What we want to do is use the with box. We want to do things with kids. So in that case, we have high control and also high support. And this is a social discipline window. So today I talked about the current standards and practices, how to meet the needs of students, and also restorative plan for meeting those social emotional needs. So as we are preparing for the kids to come back to school right now, we need to make sure that we are those trusted adults that they're going to be looking for.